Before I even got to the words, just looking at the picture, I thought, this is a bold woman. It's a black woman, self-portrait, she's naked. How bold is that? I couldn't do it, but I thought, who is this? And what courage did it take for her to do this? And then I started asking questions, because again, the more you look at it, the more questions you ask. And so one of the things I thought of was, well, why is her back facing the mirror? Why are we only seeing her backside? For me, black women have carried the weight of our people on our backs for generations and for generations. So she reveals strength in that. Then she shows us an intimate part of her body, which to me shows vulnerability and courage at the same time. Why is the portrait in such an intimate place in Sarandon? What is she thinking about? Or is she thinking? Did she stop to think, you know what? Today's laundry day. I gotta wash these sheets. She's a woman. Or is she thinking, you know what? I love these sheets. I love this bed. This is where I'm comfortable. Let me just take a moment and find my peace before I start whatever it is I want to start. But those are all the things that I thought about just by looking at the photograph. And then I got to the words. It is clear I was not Manet's type. Picasso, who had a way with women, only used me. Duchamp never even considered me. Once I got a glimpse or a better understanding of what those words meant, it made that photograph even more powerful to me. Manet. I've heard of Manet, but I started looking at his work in preparing for this talk, and one of the things that I noticed about Manet is whenever he portrayed black women, which wasn't very often, but when he did, they were savage, they were subservient, they were servants. And one picture that stood out with me with Manet is a piece called Olympia. I think he painted it maybe in the late 1800s. Picture of a white woman, and she was naked, and it was a frontal view of her, and her hand was covering, you know. But she's lying on a bed, and there's a black woman that is fully clothed, and her head is covered. She's very, very dark, and she's serving this woman what looked like flowers to me. I couldn't really tell what she was serving, but there was color in there, so my mind went to flowers. But I stared at that Olympia picture, and then I contrasted with this picture. I was not Monet's type. He portrayed black women in a way that we were not as worthy as the white female. Then we get to Picasso. And you don't have to know about art to know about Pablo Picasso, right? And how he had a way with women. That's a nice way of putting it. Some people say that he was a womanizer, I don't know. But he had a way with women, but then she says, he only used me. So of course I started looking at images of black women with Picasso's work. And very, very similar to Manet in the sense that, you know, they were somewhat savage, but Picasso and the way he portrayed black women was more so sexually promiscuous. His parody of Olympia, Manet's Olympia's piece, and he called it Olympia too, I think. But in Picasso's piece, the woman is lying on a bed, but she's a black woman. She's a little full. Black woman, but the difference between the two was that with the black woman, she had a white male at each of her bedsides. So one on the right and one on the left, sexually promiscuous. And they are approaching the bed. And then Duchamp. Never even considered me. When I started looking at his work, one of the things that stood out to me was, and again, this is just my interpretation of what I saw, he took things that we wouldn't necessarily consider art and labeled them art. That was where he got his strength or power, or I don't know, his reputation as being a great artist from, was he would take things that you wouldn't consider art, dub them art, and therefore they're art. And the one photograph of something by him that I recall was he took a urinal and he put it on a pedestal, and he called it fountain, and that made it art. Never even considered it. So once you break down, you know, what she's saying here, and then look at the photograph, that boldness again just comes back out to me. That she would have the audacity, for lack of a better word, that she would have the audacity to speak to the great artists of the past. I looked at this as more so like an Olympian self-portrait. This was kind of like her answer to the artists of the past, to say, you know, you have your interpretation of me, but now let me give you a reality.
You know, 20th century art was founded on the bodies of women. And to me, she is claiming, I am not an object to be paraded. Mm-hmm. I have my own bed, it's my bed, it's not your bed to watch me in it. And it's somewhat related to what you say in terms of, yes, I'm changing this. This is like, my response to you is like, look at my back. Yeah. And I've got my own world.
Literally turned her back to it.
Mm-hmm. To that idea. And her world is her world. It's not a world to be viewed upon by the viewer. And so more narrowly, I think with young women is the idea of creating my own truth, not necessarily polluted by the truth around me.
It's as if she's standing there, she knows she has a task to do, or she has a mission to accomplish. And it's almost as if there's a reflection. I have dealt with rejection before, and I know what I'm about to do now is a vulnerable situation, but I'm vulnerable and I'm strong. But I've had a chance to rest. I have had a chance, an opportunity to rest from rejection, ridicule, or whatever, and now I'm ready to face the next stage of my life. When I turn around, that's what I'll be doing.
I very much look at this as a woman, and I appreciate what you say about it. And you were talking about connecting it to our lives, and I think it's just such a huge challenge because women, young women especially, you know, they get so many different messages other than having a strong sense of self. And here's a woman who does have a sense of self, and how do we help children and adult women find that in themselves? I think that is a community issue that we all need to think about.
The biggest issue in the world is women's rights, I think. I think that affects children's rights. When you go around the world, I mean, part of the reason we're as far along as we are, and that Chantal exists in this culture, is because women have gained rights and fought hard. Right. And across the world, that's one of the very biggest struggles that causes so many problems all over the world.
Well, it's true, if you change the life of a woman, you change more than just the woman. Right. You change her, all of her family, the people around her.
For this artist, it took this one photograph, which led to a series of photographs. It led to a series of poses. And I think what it does is it opens us up. When we can face truth and face honesty, it will challenge us. And so I wanted to say all of that and challenge you guys tonight to, again, look at this and think, what is it that you are carrying around with you, maybe from your past, like she is reflecting on, that could change your community?